Hi everyone, I hope you are studying well and preparing good for exams. And in the last four videos, you have seen I say, a quick revision of ISCA, CA final old syllabus, right? So, today we are going to see paper number 6 only, of course, but we are going to see chapter number 5. So, chapter number 5 is the lengthiest chapter of all the chapters in ISCA, right? It has somewhat few relation, you can say few similarity of topics with chapter number 3, but yet it is different. So what does chapter number 5 deal with? Chapter number 5 deals with the topics acquisition, development and implementation of the information system. So information system, how to acquire, how to develop and how to implement this is what's seen in chapter number 5. Okay, so as always we did in the last two chapters, we first start with the MCQs and cover few important topics from the last day revision PDF. So this once again consider yourself that you have to revise the practice manual after listening to the session, and in this revision I'll be covering almost every topic in that. The MCQs are designed by me in such a way that in 50 MCQs per chapter, almost the chapters will be revised for you. Okay, and then once these 8 chapters are done, we will happily go to the MCQs released by the recently with ICAI. Also we will be covering the case study based MCQs. So one chapter a day will keep the fear of ISCA away. So that is what we need to do, right? So let us now scroll down to chapter number 5. So this PDF what you're seeing, if you can purchase it at 50% discount, and the link is given in the description box. You can take both last day revision notes and MCQs combo. It will be very effective in pricing also, and a lot of effort has been taken in making this book. So you can say all the data available, you can say all information, not data, available in the ICAI material, mock tests, RTPs, previous questions, everything has been considered in making this book, and it has been made eye friendly, student friendly of course, but eye friendly for you to see and read and revise it more frequently. Okay, so though it looks 223 papers, don't worry, it's easy to study and revise. Okay, let's go start with chapter number 5. What is the name? Acquisition, development and implementation of the information systems. Okay, so we will be having, from the series starts at 201, because till 200 we had chapter number 4, and now we are having 201. So first let us see few MCQs, and then let us go back to the last day revision for revising few important concepts. Let's get started. So first question, business process design involves a sequence of steps which are dash. So what is the business process design? So design involves a steps of design anything. So what does it involve? Present process documentation. Yes, we must know the what is the present thing actually happening. Proposed process documentation. Yes, we must know what is actually required to happen. Then implementation of the new process. All these three must be there in order to considered as the steps for the business process design. Okay, then dash refers to the process of examining a business situation with the intent of improving it through the better procedures and methods. So what among the following are the system development, system analysis, system plan and system design? Among these four, what refers to the process of examining a business situation with the intent of improving it through better procedure and method? So system development refers to the process of examining a business situation with the intent of improving it to better procedure and method. So listen, you can say, ma'am, why can't it be system analysis? System analysis come to that place where you are just only trying to analyze what is the actual situation. Okay, but you're not doing anything there. But in development you try to see what situation and have better procedure and methods for improvement. So system development will be the answer. Okay, based upon the development we do plan, we design the plan and we implement the plan. So system development will form the exact answer here. Then 203, lack of standard project management and system development methodology, overwork or undertrained development staff. So these two, A and B, what are the issues related to? Are they user related, management related, new technology related or developer related? So what can it be? Lack of standard project management and system development methodology. So system development is taken care by the developer. So one hint you can say that the developer may not have a proper project management team or a proper management or sorry, proper development method. Okay, and second, he's saying overworked or undertrained staff. So the staff generally here, if we say in the system acquisition and development, the staff refers to the people who are developing. They are not the people in the organization. They are the people who are developing the system. They can be a part of the organization, I am not saying that, but they belong to only to system development, not to any other area of the organization. So these two, lack of standard project management and overworked or trained development staff, are pertaining to the issues faced by the developer. Okay, then following is not a character of system development methodology. So among these four, one is not the characteristic feature of the system development methodology. What is it? So okay, let us see. Specific reports and other documentation called deliverables must be produced periodically during system development. So system development methodology, we must have consistent reports every after a certain period of time. We must have proper report or delivery report which we can show to the manager and let us know what's actually what is the system development and which stages is it, right? Then formal program change control are established to preclude any unauthorized changes to computer program. Yes, system development methodology will have a method, a particular method through which change can be incorporated. You can't just do without any proper protocols. Okay. Then project is divided into sequential phases with some overlap and splashback acceptable between the phase. Generally, this is the feature of the waterfall method of system development. So waterfall method of system development is one type of system development. It is not the only method to develop a system. So it is relevant to waterfall model. But in general, in system development methodology, we generally go sequential phases, and sometimes we may not go sequential phases. We may develop one unit at a time. We develop different units at different times and combine them. Anything can happen. So the C part belongs to waterfall method. Then D, user manager and auditors are required to participate in the project. Yes, system development methodology, it requires participation by all people there. So the point number C does not belong to this method here. It belongs only to waterfall but not to overall system development methodology. Then dash is a traditional development approach in which each phase is carried on in a sequence or linear fashion. Whenever the things come that in system development, there is a traditional method and there is a sequence followed. It's called as waterfall model. Okay. Then, Dash is an ideal for supporting less experienced project team and project managers or teams whose composition fluctuates. So, generally, you're coming to let us see the model types now, development model. So, you can understanding the features of each development model. And once you read the last division, come back to MCQ or do MCQ and go there. That these concepts will be fixed in your mind. Okay, let's get started. So what is the business process design? Business process design means it is the structuring of the task. What task? The task done by the organization. Structuring of how to do, what to do, when to do those tasks, functionality and activities for improving the business. So this business process design will help you in structuring the task and improve the functionality of the business, right? So what does it involve? It has present process documentation, proposed process documentation, and implement a new process. Present process documentation has understanding the business and activities, documenting the existing business, and analyzing the documented process. Okay. Then proposed, what you want to happen. Then understanding what process is necessary to implement, designing the process and documenting the new activity, and how to implement. When implementing, you try to validate if the process is working function correctly, are you properly implementing the process, and then testing the new process. This is what happens in the business process design. Then system development. See these three definitions you must try to remember. What is system development? It refers to a process of examining a business situation with the intent of improving it through better procedures and methods. System development can generally be thought of as to having two major components. What does it have? Analysis and design. So what is analysis? It is analysis means process of gathering and interpreting facts, diagnosis problems, and using the information to recommend improvement in system. Okay, so you're gathering and then diagnosing. Then with design is a process of planning and structuring new business system or to replace the existing one, right? Then what are the issues why we are not able to develop system in a good manner that how we wanted? The issues what we face are user related, developer related, management related, and then new technology related. So user related, we have what problem does user face? He has shifting user needs, then resistance to change, lack of user participation, inadequate testing, and user training. In developer issue, what will happen? There's a lack of standard project management system. So there is no proper protocols maintained by the developer. There is no proper system development methodology followed by him. Then there can be overtrained worker or undertrained person in his team. Then management related issue, there may be a lack of senior management support and non-developmental strategic system. When there is no senior management support, it is very difficult to move forward. Okay, so you can't move forward without any senior management involvement. That's very much required there. The new technology means we can see how rampant and fast one technology is overtaking another. From normal phone call where you used to have charges for both incoming and outgoing, now we came to 4G and now going to 5G. So we don't know when even 2G came and went, right? That's the thing here. So how is an accountant involved in development work? He is involved in calculating the return of investment. He is calculating and finding the differences between the cost of implementing one decision to another, then computing cost of IT implementation and cost benefit analysis. Then in these two, like return on investment and computing the cost, accountant is involved. Okay, then system development methodology. What is system development methodology? It is a formalized standard, it is a formal method of how to develop a system by the organization. It is standardized, means the following international standards and other specified standards. Well organized means one process follows the other, and documented set of activities that is used to manage a system development project. Okay, so what is the characteristic of system methodology? It is the project is divided into identifiable process. Like every project has a starting point, in between what will have an ending point. So those parts of the project is identifiable. Then it has specific reports and documentations called deliverables, which should be given to the system. Then user manager and auditors are required to participate in the project. Next, what should be the other characteristics of system methodology? System must properly tested before implementation. Yes, a training plan must be there as to who will operate and what will happen to the new system. And then formal program change control must be established. Means any change to be done to the system must follow a particular method to do the change. Then after post implementation, we must see how the performance is being done. So there must be a post implementation review. This is the characteristics of system development methodology. But what are the different approaches or different types of system methodology? The first one being waterfall model. Waterfall model is the traditional one, which is the most basic one, and which follows a linear fashion. Means everything goes in line, nothing goes haphazard, everything goes in line. Then and what are the characteristics of waterfall model? First thing, it is the main you need to remember these few characteristics of every model. So first one being waterfall model, we have the project is divided into sequential phases, in very sequential phases with some overlap and splashback between the places. Then emphasis is on planning and time schedules and target budget system. Then tight control is maintained over life of the project and documentation is given much importance need. Okay, then what are the strength of waterfall model? It is very important and very supporting for the small teams which have which is generally having less experience. Okay, then this orderly development of the system will help you to review how the system is being done and what quality system is being produced. Then progress of the system can be easily measurable and helps to conserve the resource. But what are the weakness? It is very slow, inflexible, means it will follow a pattern definitely. It's very inflexible, and then project moves only forward, it can't come backward. If you miss anything in the step, you can't go and rectify it. Then it is very little to iterate, means you can't deviate it from the project, you can't change it. Then the waterfall model focuses mostly on everything being identified in the starting of the project itself. Nothing new can be added in the middle of the project. Then any inconsistency in the requirement, like suppose the person is not clear what actually what he wants, such kind of inconsistency, such kind of missing system component will not will be a very detrimental in the in the waterfall development model. Then problems are generally not discovered in until system is tested. So you don't know how the system is working, what problems might the user face until unless you test it. You must wait till the testing stage, and again you can't come back and modify it. Okay, then system performance cannot be tested until the system is fully coded exactly. It is difficult to respond to changes which may occur later in the life cycle of the system. Then excess documentation and testing really is very cumbersome, and what will happen there, it promotes a gap between the user and developer, and written specifications are often difficult for user to read and understand. Then comes the prototyping model. The goal of prototyping approach, prototype is about making a small sample. So what happens here, a small sample version of the project is being completed, and then the user is given the project to use. And depending upon the usage, how the use is there, how the small model is working, depending upon that, user will specify its criticalities or the positiveness in them, and accordingly the developers will make change to the prototype and make the final one. So this is what happens in the prototyping model. And here, what are the different phases of the model? First thing is identifying the information system requirements, then developing the initial prototype, testing and revising the prototype, and then obtain user sign off and for the approved prototype. So first you design, you identify, you design, you develop, you test, you revise, and then you obtain sign off for future perfect development. Then what are the strength of this prototyping model? First thing, both user and developer can participate. Useful for resolving unclear objective, means once he specifies clear, then only it can be further developed. Then it can exploit the knowledge and potential it can develop. It can easily identify confusing or difficult functions. It enables specifications to generate. I'm sorry, students. Just a minute. Yeah. Enable to generate application for production. So what does it say? It generates a suitable computer application for production and encourages flexible design and innovation. So the functional team is free to have its own imagination to incorporate the system development. The results are better definition to the user needs and requirements. It is developed in very short period of time, and errors are hopefully detected in the beginning of the beginning stage of the prototype. So the final product can mostly be error free. Then what are the weakness? Weakness is that approval process is not that strict, so it does not follow a particular hierarchy process for the approval, so we don't know which manager approves what there. Then incomplete or inadequate problem testing, so problem analysis is not being properly done. You just come and do your work without even analyzing what is the problem. Then requirements may frequently differ. Identification of the non-functional elements is difficult to document. So here, if you know the functional elements are very positive, then we are going forward, but non-functional elements must also be taken care of, right? Don't you think? Then prototype may not have sufficient checks and balance, and prototyping can be successful only if the system users are willing to take time and experiment. If they don't have taken time, then it is not going to be helpful. Then in the interactive process of prototyping, cause the prototype to be experimented with quite exhaustively. So you can experiment it with different kinds of technology, different kinds of applications to know how your system is working. Then prototyping you can't do that. You can't interact with other peoples because you are doing a sample version there. Then prototyping may cause behavior problems with system user, means behavior problem is that the software may not or the system may not work as it worked during testing thing, so that can cause some behavior problems in the prototype model. Then comes incremental model. What happens here? The incremental model is a method of software development where each model is designed, implemented, tested incrementally, means small parts are being developed and then tested. Then at the end of the day, all parts are combined to make the final product, but each product is taken as separate unit or separate project. It is completed totally, and then it is combined with the other parts of the system. Then the product is like you can say, this allows this does not require much long development thing, because each product can be started separately and fine integration can be done. Here, what are the features of this incremental model? First thing, you can say mini waterfalls are performed, means every system is divided different components. Each component will follow like a waterfall model, starting from the starting part, who is doing what, how is it doing, those things you follow for as a mini waterfall model in the incremental model. Then overall system requirements are defined before only, nothing is kept till the end. And then initial software concept, requirement analysis, design structure, etc. are defined using the waterfall approach, followed by iterative prototyping. Iterative prototyping means repeatedly doing the prototype until you get the result. So this waterfall model is the mini waterfall will include the requirement analysis, design and development, and the prototyping will apply it and see how well it's functioning. So incremental model, you can say combination of waterfall and prototype. Then what are the strength of incremental model? There is a potential exists for having large vast volume of knowledge. Okay, because if the incremental model, once as and when the increments are being added, we can see how system is functioning and document that for further reference. Then model control is maintained over entire life of the project. The stakeholders can give concrete evidence that this is being happening, this is what we are doing, that we have done till here, we have right now we are implementing this phase, so stakeholders can get the concrete evidence. It's more flexible and less costly to change the scope. It can easily migrate integration and architectural risk. It allows delivery of series of implementation, and gradual implementation provides the ability to monitor effective incremental change. So at a time development is going to have less focus by the management, but incremental model will help in slow by slow development of system, but in a phased manner. Then what are the weakness of incremental model? By utilizing series of mini waterfall, a small part of system becomes very rigid before going to next part of system, and the system developed in one variety may have some interface problem with the other component. Then the each phase is rigid and did not overlap, so all the functioning of all systems will become a big question mark. Then problems may arise pertaining to system architecture, so what kind of architecture we are following. Then some modules may work well while you are testing, but again when they come to reality, those modules may not function at all. That's a very great challenge actually. Then difficult to demonstrate early success to management. Like to manage, we can show we are in stage 3, but to coming to stage 3, then we think only 2 stages have been done. We can't show what are the efforts get by in the development of the system. There is a weakness here. Then comes the spiral model, one of the very important models in system development. So what happens is spiral model here. What happens here? It combines both the design and prototyping in stages. So we can have it is having the advantage of both top up and bottom down. Sorry, top down and bottom up concept. What is the concept here means? Here it is a game developing and complicated tasks are being conducted here. So what happens? It follows the prototype model waterfall also. In prototype we design a proper system, a sample, and then we give it for verification, and depending upon the changes we implement it, right? And waterfall, what happens, each part is taken care of and come from starting to end is defined, developed and then tested. So here both are combined, like we each take a prototype, we follow further prototype of waterfall combination, we test it, and again we follow the cycle of reframing the model always. So this is a lengthy model of preparation for any large expensive complicated project, especially development of the game software there. So what are the strength here? It enhances risk awareness because we see every possible thing, what is the best thing that can happen, what worst can happen there. Then it is useful for optimal development of a given software. We can incorporate waterfall prototyping incremental model also, so that we can have the guidance of all the all the three methodology in development of a particular system. Then what are the weakness? First thing is that, sorry, we don't know exactly what composition of development is required from each of the models in this particular model. Then we may try to prove a highly customized project, but it is very quite difficult and complex to provide a highly customized one, and skill and experience of the project manager is always in question when taking up this model. And there are no established controls anywhere that the spiral model must be done like this, right? So we don't have proper framework in place, and there is no firm deadline for the preparation of the project. Therefore every time the cycle continues as long it is viable. So these are the weakness of the spiral model. Then we have rapid application development model. This is one of the names of the rapid application, means developing system in a very fast manner. Here the thing is that the planning thing is not taken care of, but generally while planning itself we try to complete of the software only, so that is the speed here. Here there is a the pre-planning activity is bit reduced and mostly action is taken care of, and when the main focus is on giving the system as fast as to the customer. So we don't focus on planning, we don't focus on documentation, we just keep on doing the existing system and then try to modify it and give it to the user. Now what are the features of the rapid application development? First thing is that we can have a good quality system because we are developing in a fast way using all the available models, and at a very less cost. Okay, but there are certain other features which you need to remember, because this is a project, this rapid application development has certain risk with it because there's no proper documentation, right? So what are the other features here? It aims to produce high quality systems, okay, and key emphasis is on the business speed, business need. And project controls, what happened here, the project controls involve prioritizing development and defining delivery date and time boxes. So here when you're developing system, though the spiral model is having one of the weakness being the time management can't be done, but generally it follows a time framework. Okay, it follows a time framework where the time boxes are taken care of, which shows the time involved in prioritizing and developing the system development. Then it includes joint application development where users are intensely involved in system development. Then what does it do? It produces necessary documentation required to facilitate future development, and standard system analysis and design techniques can be fitted into this framework. So what are the strength of the rapid application development? First thing is that the operational version of applications are easily available. So we know once the customer asks the put the request for such kind of system, we can deliver it very easily and visible, and it produces system very quickly. Quick initial review possible, because once it is done, we can see how it is working, how it is testing, how it is working, what test to be performed, and then we can take a call. Then it can constantly integrate with the it can constantly integrate isolated problems with and encourage customer feedback. It has great level of commitment. So what does this spiral model have? It has a great level of commitment, and it concentrates on the essential system development from the user point of view, and it also leads to become a better, it leads to tighter fit between user requirement and system specification. You can't always keep in changing it. You must have proper system in place to know the user requirement and system specification. Then what are the weaknesses? First thing is very fast and low cost. Then project may end up creating more requirement for the user. User may ask for one thing, but we do in a very fast way that it leads to asking three more things there. Then it may lead to inconsistent design and errors. It may call for violation of programming standards. Then it can also call to violation of programming standards, program names, inconsistent naming convention, etc. Because they're trying to provide the name of their own. So here it may even ask for more of lack of attention to the data system development. Like if we try to this parallel model focus on one thing, we can't have further development in the system. Then tendency for difficult problems to be pushed to future. So the tendency of the managers will be to push the problems to the future, and since some modules will be completed much earlier days, you can have that modules ready. But having the model is not sufficient. We must actually be able to integrate it, right? So having some models may be ready is one of the weakness for the system. Then comes the agile model. Agile model is organized. So what is it? It is a process where the teams interact with each other, teams collaborate with the customer, and then they make a product. It's not something done independently, but it's a group team effort. So there is an organized set of activities, system development methodology based upon the iterative and incremental development, where requirements and solutions evolve through collaborating between self-organizing and cross-functioning team. It promotes adaptive planning, evolution, development, and delivery. Time-boxed approach. What does this agile provide? It provides time-boxed approach and encourages rapid and flexible response to change. What does Agile Manifesto consist of? Agile follows these things to have the place of system development methodology. First thing, customer satisfaction and rapid development of systems or useful software. Then, welcoming change requirements. So these are the things present in the Agile Manifesto. So he's saying welcoming change requirements even last in development. Then, welcome software is delivered frequently. Working software is delivered frequently. Then, working software is a principal measure of progress. So if you clean till here this month, this is a measure of progress. Then sustainable development, ability to maintain a constant pace. Exactly. Then close daily cooperation between business people and the developers, and face-to-face conversation with the member of the team helps them to know the customer requirement and then complete it off, right? Then projects are built around motivated individuals who should be trusted. Continuous attention to technical excellence is a good decision, and it is the technical decisions who are having getting continuous technical excellence thing there. It offers very simplicity in following up the project. Then self-organizing teams and regular updation to changing circumstances to the management. So these are the agile manifesto which generally follow for developing system through agile method. And what are the strength of agile method? It is adaptive team can take place. Okay, the team does not invest much time and data in gathering it, they automatically get it. Then face-to-face communication is a better form of communication, and then the document is very crisp. Here it's not that we don't do any documentation, we do but very crisp documentation as to what is needed. Then result is generally through high software in least possible time. So we can say we'll get good software in small amount of time by having rapid application development. Then what is a weakness? Every system has a weakness, right? In weakness we have software deliverables, especially large ones, are difficult to assess the effort required at the beginning of software development. So when we are trying to develop software, we may think it happens like this, but it may take more than 5 days. So software deliverable will be the one of the major weakness here. Then lack of emphasis on doing necessary documentation and designing. So we don't do proper documentation design, it is going to affect our ability. Then agile requires more rework than due to lack of long term planning and highlight approach of the customers. The project can easily the project can easily get set off back, or sorry, you can say the project can easily be taken off track if the customer representative is not clear as to what the company wants. Then agile lacks the attention to outside integration also. So these things will make the agile model very weak. Okay, so I guess now we can happily go to the MCQs, right? Okay, so let's come back now. Dash is ideal for supporting less experienced project team and project manager or team whose composition fluctuates. So what is very suitable for less experienced people? It is waterfall model because it follows a straight approach there. Then excessive documentation and its updation written specification is often difficult for sorry users to read, understand, promote the gap between user and developer. These are the weaknesses of what generally excessive documentation is done mostly in the waterfall model. So that should be the answer for excessive documentation updation, promotes gap between user and developer, written specification are very difficult to read and understand. So these all are the issues faced in the waterfall model. Then a dash is a usable system or system component that is built quickly and at lesser cost and with the intention of modifying, replicating, expanding, or even replacing it by full scale and full operation system. So what is saying? It is usable system built quicker, is built quickly and less cost with intention of replacing it. Whenever the question replace comes, so automatically the answer goes to prototype model there. Okay, then potential exists for exploiting knowledge gained in early iteration is possible. Which model? Early iteration knowledge you can gain. So iteration is mostly done in which model? Yes, you're right, it's done in the prototyping model. So early iteration knowledge can be gained in prototyping model. Then dash is a method of software development where the model is designed, implemented, and tested incrementally until the product is incrementally developing it. So automatically you can say that model is called incremental model, right? Yes. Then, when utilizing series of mini waterfalls for a small part of system before moving it on to the next incremental, using usually a lack of overall consideration of the business problem and technical requirement for the overall system. So you see what is it? You are using mini waterfalls. Using mini waterfalls as a part of system development before moving to the next increment, usually, and there is a lack of overall consideration of the business problem. So what does these two? These two are the features of which model? Come on, these two are the features of the increment model, because in incremental model we use mini waterfalls and then we even sometimes forget what is the issue that for which we are doing this system development. So incremental model forms a part of this answer. Then dash model is intended for large, expansive, complicated project. Whenever it comes complicated project, it is a parallel model because parallel model is very complicated model. Tendency for difficult problems to be pushed at the in future is a weakness of what? So in generally, if you see the tendency to push the problems are not even focused, they are just pushing it to future. So in this system the problem will not be focused, it is not focused on rapid application development because system development is the main motto. Then dash is organized set of software development methodology based upon the iterative and incremental development. So what is saying? It is an organized set of software development methodology based upon the iterative and incremental development. So there is a repeated iterative and incremental development where requirements and solutions are evolve through collaboration between self-organizing and cross-functional team. So all the ideas generated through team discussion that happens whenever team comes. Teamwork is done through agile model. That is the core base of agile thing there. Which of the following belongs to Agile Manifesto? So manifesto means just we saw that the agenda which the agile model has to give to the entire world. What is that thing? Customer satisfaction by rapid delivery of useful software. Yes, it is required. Face-to-face conversation is the best form of communication. Yes, it is required. Regular adaptation to changing circumstances. Yes, this also is required. So all these three belong to the Agile Manifesto. Then, which of the following is not a shortcoming of SDLC? So in system development life cycle, this is not the one of the issues. So what is the thing? So what are the shortcomings of SDLC? So which he is asking among these four, which one is one of the weakness of system level life cycle? The development team may feel it cumbersome. Okay, that's fine. I think it is the question. Okay, sorry, he's asking which of the following is not a shortcoming of SDLC. Okay, the development team may find it cumbersome. It need not be. Okay, the users may find that end product is not visible for a long time. So okay, so maybe this system development life cycle, generally when we see this system development life cycle, I think this question framing has been a bit difficult, my friends. Please write it down there that this one is asking in the system development life cycle, generally what can be the short, what is not a shortcoming. So if you see entire in general all system of life cycle, somewhere other the team may find it cumbersome, okay, and somewhere other user may find the end product not visible, okay. Then have clear understanding of the various phases of SDLC. So having a clear understanding is not a shortcoming, actually it is one of the strength. Then it may not be suitable for small and medium projects. System level life cycle sometimes may people it may feel only important for the big project. Small projects it may not be that necessary to develop a system. So overall, if we see in general terms, having clear understanding of the various phases of SDLC is for the strength of having SDLC, but it is not a shortcoming. So this is the answer. Then the primary method with which the help of the scope of the project can be analyzed. So how can you analyze scope of the project? We can analyze scope of the project by reviewing internal document, by conducting interviews. By doing these two things, we can do the project. We can understand what is scope of the project. Then, DASH includes a thorough and detailed understanding of the current system, identification of the areas that lead to modification to solve the problem. So, what is saying? What will help you to have a good understanding of the current system, identification of the areas that needs to modification to solve a problem, and then determination of the requirements and have a fair idea of the system development tools, etc. So all these things happens in what? You can have a good understanding only when these things all happen in which stage it happens in. Does it happen in pre-planning? No, in pre-planning we just see what actually happened till now. In design we will do after analyzing. Implementation is after design. But this thing, the question is talking all about the having understanding of the current system and trying to modify or develop a new system. It can happen in the system requirement analysis. Okay, then what are the system development tools? There are several tools for helping system development, like we have structured English, case tools, decision tree, decision table, and data dictionary. All these A, B, and C form part of system development tools. Then consideration to be kept in mind while acquiring hardware software. What all you need to keep in mind when you're acquiring things from the vendor, from outside person. We must have a proper knowledge of vendor selection, geographical location of vendor, presentation given by the vendor, evaluation of the users feedback of the on that vendor. So all the three above must be the answer. Let's get back to the LDR. Okay, then what are the advantages of system development? What are the advantages of having a system development life cycle in place? So too, we must have a documented thing in the organization to know how system is being developed, right? So how does the system development life cycle help in? It can help in better planning and control by project managers, compliance to prescribed standards, and ensuring better quality. It helps in documentation, helps stresses out the important measures taken for development of the project, and it will help to determine the milestones achieved, so that we know up to what stage system is being done. Okay, then uh, the generally IS auditor can see how much in his audit report can mention how the steps are being formulated and followed in the system development life cycle. So here he will he the advantage of having information system audit on system development life cycle is that we'll have a clear understanding of the various phases of SDLC. We can state in the report, the auditor can state in his report about the compliance aspect of the SDLC. Then if he has a technical knowledge, he can understand and guide how better it can be implemented, and the evaluation of the methods and techniques used for the various development of HDLC. So he can also see what are the different kinds of techniques and tools that are used. So what can auditor do? He can have clear understanding by doing IS audit. He can have clear understanding of the system components involved in the system development life cycle. He can state in his report about the compliance by the information system management. If he has a technical knowledge, he can assist further in improving the system, and then he can evaluate the methods and techniques used for development of HDLC. These all are the benefits of having an information system audit for the system development life cycle. The what are the shortcomings of this? First thing is that development team may find the development process very tough. Users may find that end of product is not visible for a long time. The rigidity approach of the project may prolong the duration of many projects, and it not be suitable for small entrepreneurs because nothing is moving there, like nobody is trying like what happens here it requires lot of coordination among the team, among the user, among the manager. So small people or small business is actually not that required. So implementing system life cycle to a small project is not going to yield any benefit to us. Then Then we have what are the shortcome, yeah, same thing has been repeated here. Then what are the different stages of system development life cycle? We have preliminary investigation, system requirement analysis, system design, system acquisition, system development, system testing, system implementation, and post implementation review. So totally 8 topics or 8 parts are there for system development life cycle. So we have preliminary investigation, system requirement analysis, system design, system acquisition, system testing, system development, system testing, the system implementation, post implementation review, and maintenance. So let us see briefly of these all segments here. So let us see the all 8 stages now. So what is preliminary investigation? Preliminary investigation is done mainly to determine, analyze the strategic benefits of implementing system in the organization, right? So that we can analyze and quantify what is the future cost avoidance by using this system here, what cost savings, what better, and how can we improve the system here. So what are the major activities of preliminary investigation? We have identification of the problem, identification of the objective, delineation of scope. Then for identification of problem means what is actually why the existing system is not functioning. Okay, then what is the issues faced by the organization. Then what is the objective, identification of objective will help you to work out what is the main, what is the cause of the problem there, and then propose solution for it. Then delineation of scope. So delineation of scope means here we can understand like how what are the limitations faced by the organization, how it should be addressed, okay, and what are the functional requirements, etc. Then two primary methods help in understand the scope of the project are reviewing the document and conducting interviews help you to understand or what to know the scope of the work or scope of the project. These two methods will help you understand the scope of the project. Then we have another steps in preliminary investigation. We have feasibility study. So feasibility study includes the seeking the feasibility of technical level, financial, economic, schedule or time resources availability, operational feasibility, and then behavior legal feasibility, and then reporting requirements to report results to the management. That is the first step in the preliminary investigation. Then we have system requirement analysis. Here we try to see what kinds of what is the current system all about, okay, identify the areas and then provide what are the things required for development of system there. In system requirement analysis we try to see the following, like we have a fact finding. That is, fact finding means what is the need, current need of the organization, okay, and what are the various fact and as you can say what are the uh, issues faced by the management and what should be known to the management. So fact finding always entirely it includes the system system needs, or fact finding includes what is the what is the things that we need to know in the development process. So what are the different fact finding tools? We have documentation, questionnaires, interviews, and observations. So there are 4 tools for the fact finding, that is documentation, questionnaires, interviews, and observation. Then we have analysis of the present system. In system requirement specification we have analysis of the present system, then system analysis of the proposed system. So in future what type of thing we need to have. The system development tools. So what are the tools to be used for developing of system? We have different tools like structured English, flowchart, data flow diagram, decision tree, decision tables, case tool, system components matrix, and also we have data dictionary and user interface layout and forms. So these are the different tools used for development of system. Then we have system specification. So at the end of the analysis phase what we need, we develop a project report called a system requirement specification report, which will show what is the exact specification of system that we're going to, what is going to do, what is the actual feature. Okay, then we come to once the feature is decided, once the requirements are being studied and understood, we will do a design. System design is next stage of the it is the development of a blueprint for development of system. So what are the major activities in system design? We have architectural design that show what the how the organization is being classified, what in the how the IT structure is going, who comes next to whom, how is the hierarchy followed. Then design of the data information flow. In the architecture how the data is being flowed, who to get an approval to what extent the things can go, who can be given what approval. The design of database, depending upon the architecture we design the database saying that how the database should be, where it should be located, who should maintain it, what are the types of database, is shared or is it or on site or off site, what is the thing happening there. So design of database. Then comes, let's continue now. Dash phase is to convert the design specification into a functional system under the planned operating system environment. So what is it saying? You're converting design specification into functional system. So design you're bringing into action. So it is done in what? When you design, you try to develop it. After development only comes the implementation. So system development is the answer. Then writing the narrative procedure and instructions for the people who will use the software is done through the program lifecycle called as dash. So writing narrative description to use the software. So what is called writing something? Writing something comes under maintaining the documents. So program documentation will form the answer to it, right? Next, types of system testing. What kind of testing we have? We can have unit testing, we have structural testing, we have parallel testing, and we have stress testing. So all the four will be the types of system testing. Then classification of unit testing. We have static analysis testing, dynamic testing, or both. Yes, in unit testing, total type of system testing are totally four, but in the unit testing there is one more different classification like static testing and dynamic testing. Okay, okay, right. Then yeah, then comes techniques for dynamic testing. In dynamic, what is dynamic testing? Let us once go back to the LDR and let us see what is the different kinds of testing here. Okay, but still in LDR we are still in these phases. Okay, we are still in between the phase, but let's complete the phases also. So major activity in the system specification, sorry, in system design. In system design we have architectural design, design of database, how database is designed, the how the information will flow, design of database, depending upon the information flow we design the database. And then we have user interface. Like user interface means how what kind of user can interact, so how the user is made to see the system is called user interface. You're getting the point? So how he is seeing or viewing the system, how the portal is being shown to him is called user interface there. Okay, then come physical design. Then this forms till physical design you can say the units through which the systems are being implemented, like programs and modules, etc., how they are physically seen. Like is it a disk, what is being, it is preserved in a disk drive, or what is actually. So not only we say only cloud, but where the cloud is actually located, so that thing is covered in the physical design here. Then comes system operating platform. So after physical design we have the last thing in the system design, we have operating platform. Means what is the platform in which system is being working. So we these things are taken care of in the system design activity. Then comes system or system acquisition. How do you acquire, from where do you acquire? So you have acquisition standards, means what criteria should you take care before going for acquisition of any system, what kind of approvals required, what security safeguards are taken care of. So we have standards in place. Then we have acquiring system components from vendors. So while taking from outside party, from vendors, what you need to consider? We consider vendor selection, we see geographical location of the vendor, we see presentation by selected vendors, and we evaluate the users feedback of the vendors. So depending upon the feedback we select the vendors for acquiring our hardware and software. Then also we see other acquisition standards, like does he have proper license to do, does he has any proper validations, or is he having all the required approvals to do the business, or is he following the required standards in developing the hardware and software, like industry standards, ISO standards, those things. And does he even check the testing of the hardware and software before selling to us. So all these other criteria also will be taken care of. So this is seen in the system acquisition phase. Then comes, once we acquire, we develop. Once we get all the raw materials in hand, we shall develop it. In system development we see that the design is now converted into functional system. Okay, this we just covered the MCQ here. We cover the functional system in which we develop the application, the program is written, tested, documented, and everything is done to see it is functioning up to the user requirements. Then a good coded application. So you can say when you developed an application, so what are the good characteristics of that? It should be reliable, robustness. Okay, it should be reliability, it should be speed, it should have accuracy, efficiency, usability, and readability. So the characteristics of a good coded application are reliability, robustness, accuracy, efficiency, usability, and readability. What are the other related aspects of this phase? We have in the development thing, we must have program coding standards, means the logic in which the program is being drawn. That is the flowchart. The flowchart what we draw is now converted into a set of code which is understood by the system, by the computer, for generating that system here. Then we have a programming language. What language are you using? Are you using Java, or what are you actually using? Then we have then program debugging. Debugging refers to correcting the program language syntax and diagnosing any error. Means we first, when we compile a code, we just send it to a compiler to see if there are any errors in the compilation, and if there's any errors, we can rectify the error. That is called as program debugging. Then we have testing of the program. Once the system is being tested, we will try to, after successful installation, we try to test the program to see if it's functioning as per the needed requirement, right? Then we have programming documentation. What all we do, we must try to document like how the thing is happening, what code you are using, how which things follows what. So program documentation plays a major role when there is a future need to review the program. Then program maintenance, because after implementation, after doing everything, we need to maintain the program. If we don't maintain, the system gets obsolete, right? So we, with the changing needs of the business environment, we must do the maintenance program also. Then comes the next stage, system testing. Once we design the system, once we develop system, once the designing is done, we develop it. Once we develop, we test it. In testing, we have different process. But why do we do the test? We do the test to know if the system is working correctly, if it's totally complete, and it is following the quality aspects or not. So in testing, we have various kinds of testing. First one being unit testing. Then we have unit test. Yeah, just a minute. We have unit test, and we have integration testing. We have unit testing, integration testing. Then we have regression testing. Okay. And the testing is actually, you say, it is a very big concept there. So let us once see step by step. So please, all of you, focus here. In testing, we have first, we have unit testing. Again, unit testing means we are testing a small part of the entire software. In unit testing, we have functional test to see the function performance or not. Then performance test to see if the performance execution time, the process through which it is being done, the output, everything seen here. Then stress test, is it able to bear the sudden demand of the thing that is going to do. Like suppose if the software is going to meet the credit card billing, for example, and 31st December is a time where lot of bills get processed, right? So does it have the capacity to have to maintain and bear the stress. So in unit testing, we have functional test, performance test, stress test, structural test. So we have structural test means the logic through which the program is being written, is the structure proper or not. Then we have parallel test. Parallel test means the test data is used in both old system and the new system to know how the data is being affected and how system is responding to it. So in parallel test, again we have static analysis testing and dynamic testing. Static analysis testing means on this, the test conducted on a small source program and does not normally require any execution of the operating condition. Means irrespective of the outside environment, we are not dealing with the current environment. So the generally the system works in a particular environment, right? We won't worry about the operating condition, just we see how the things are going on. So that is called static testing. A typical how the static testing, what are the various types, how they are done, we do desk check, means within the system what things are happening. Okay, structured walkthrough and code inspection. So just we only focus on the required program, is it properly coded, is it properly functioning, and how is it going through. We are not bothered with the outside condition. Okay, let any, like if a particular system is being, suppose in you're trying to test on a particular machine, on a particular computer, you are bothered only if the program is properly functioning. You are not bothered how the computer is being maintained. Suppose if computer operating system is not properly maintained and you try to test your program on that computer, the program will function well, but since the operating system is bit not that efficient, not that good, the system may work slowly. So that you're not concerned, you're concerned only with your program code. Then comes dynamic analysis testing. Here the testing is conducted through execution of program in operating condition, like factually how the system is going to work. So the dynamic testing now, it includes different typical techniques in the dynamic testing are. So dynamic testing can in the various three forms, that is black box testing, white box testing, and gray box testing. So in black box testing, what will happen, it will take the external perspective, means we try to take if this condition happens how the system will work. So we try to take test cases from the external environment and apply it in the black box testing. Coming to white box testing, we see the internal perspective, like suppose if the system only internally, if any one particular module fails, how the system will be affected. Okay, and gray box testing is a combination of both white and black. Okay, then the other form of testing is integration testing. So students, I hope you are trying to follow properly. Unit testing is one of system testing in which there are functional test, performance test, stress test, structural test, parallel test. In parallel test, there are again two, static testing and dynamic testing. In dynamic testing, there are three methods of doing it. First thing, black box testing, white box testing, and gray box testing. Okay, now comes integration testing. Integration testing, here what happens, the software is tested where in which the individual software, so the individual modules are combined and then tested as a group. In unit testing, each one is taken care separately, but integration, everyone is combined and taken as a group. Here we have again two methods, bottom up integration and top down integration. Bottom up integration means it's a normal strategy, traditional one, in which the software functioning as a whole is taken care of, and it here what happens, here first the unit is being tested, then some two or three units are combined and the subsystem is tested, and then the whole system. But in top down, it is done in the reverse way. So here what happens, here we first start with the main routine, means what is the normal function done by the entire system, and then we use dummy data, you can say stubs, in between for the modules. And once the testing is done, depending upon the result of the stub, the main modules are substituted to it, and then the system is being allowed to function. So you go from top to bottom in the top down integration. Then the third type of testing is regression testing. In it is like, you can say, any correction actions that is required to be done based upon the result of integration testing, which uh, which we need to do particular changes to the system. And that can see, what I'm trying to explain is that depending upon the above two testing, there may be some changes which need to be incorporated, right? That incorporating those changes may change the working of system. So regression testing will ensure that the corrections or the changes brought into the system to rectify the fault will not change the entire structure of the system. Okay, so it will be the same data that is being used here. Yeah, so to avoid the changes in the particular system because of the testing done, we implement the regression testing. Okay, then the now these are the different category system testing. Okay, the other but what is the uh, definition of system testing? You can say it is a process in which software and other systems are being tested as a whole to see if the functioning and operation of the particular system is in the desired manner. Okay, so here we can say what are the different types of, see, don't get confused here. See, I the above, like unit testing, these, the system, the different levels of testing. So you can say in testing, so they come, what are the different types of testing? In different types of testing, we can give the following answer, like we have this recovery testing, security testing, stress testing, volume testing, performance. This is a system as a whole, and final acceptance testing. So here if they ask, if the answer is given to you as explain the system testing for a particular different levels, in different levels of testing we have unit testing. Okay, and then we have integration testing, and then we have regression testing, and then again we have the entire system testing. Okay, in system again, last one will be the final acceptance testing. So you need not worry, and like ma'am, so many are there, how to remember. The basic point is that basically the entire testing is only one. The entire testing what we are learning, it belongs to one big unit. So system testing has different levels in it. First is unit testing, that you got clear. So, and second again we have the integration testing. So one is unit level testing, one is integration, entire combined thing. After integration we have regression testing, and once the regression testing is done, we do the system testing for the entire system. You're getting the point, right? So now we are in the fourth stage. We did the unit testing, we did integration testing, we did the regression testing to avoid the changes to original data, and then we are now doing the entire system testing. Now in entire system testing, we can say recovery testing, security testing, stress or volume testing, and performance testing. So security testing, we can see if security protocols are properly maintained, who is getting access to the system or not. Then stress or volume testing, I just told you that if the system can bear, even if the stress testing is at the individual unit level, can the unit bear the stress there, and in the entire function system as a whole, can the system can bear the stress. And then we have recovery testing to see if there is a crash or any undesirable event, does what are the activities taken care by the system to recover the lost data, and can it handle the hardware software sudden failures. And then last one we have performance testing to know, even see like the stress testing, and you can say the stress testing, performance testing is repeated in both unit and system as a whole. For the unit level, we see if it can bear the stress, if it can perform well. Similarly for the entire system, we will see if it can bear the stress and perform well. Okay, then we do the final acceptance testing to see if system that is ready for implementation is satisfying all our needs or not. So final acceptance testing in two parts. One is quality assurance testing and one user acceptance testing. Quality assurance testing is done to see if the prescribed quality standards are followed, does it meet the quality criteria and the quality assurance policy of the organization. And user acceptance testing will see if the use functioning as part of software is as per the user requirement or not. So in this we do alpha testing and beta testing to know that the information system is operational and it is meeting the needs of the user. Okay, so being on paper is different, physically doing the work by the users also is different. So let's once again revise the entire testing. In the entire system testing, this can come with a very big thing, but you need to understand entire system testing. We first have unit testing, of which only one part is tested. Unit testing the different categories like functional test, performance test, stress test, structural test, and then parallel test. And in parallel test again there are two categories: static testing and dynamic testing. So dynamic testing is done in three methods: as black box testing, white box testing, and gray box testing. Okay, the second part of testing is integration testing, which is covering all the units there. In this we have two methods: bottom up integration and top down integration. And then we have regression testing, the like stopping the changes from stopping the system from affected by changes done to cover the faults which we found in the previous testing. Then we have entire system testing, that is recovery testing, in which again in the entire system testing we do have again four criteria categories, that is recovery testing, security testing, stress or voluntary performance testing. Last we have final acceptance testing, that is quality assurance testing, user acceptance testing, of which we do alpha testing and beta testing. Okay, then when we are implementing the system, we do check, because once we are trying to access system, we do access the system only when there's a proper equipment installation, when there's a training personnel and the system changeover strategy. Like equipment installation, like do we need to have a raised floor or do we need a particular hardware for installation. Then training personnel means do the proper training is given to the people who use the system for both hardware and software. And then what are the emergency things to be done if system is in repair. Okay, then comes system changeover strategy, means converting from old system to new system, what are you trying to do. Okay, then fine, now we all accept the system. Then if you accepted the system, then comes how to implement it. It comes these different kinds of implementation phases are direct implementation, like you just come and start the new system without any formal change. Like a phased changeover, here you go step by step, you convert one activity and then you go to other. Like phased changeover means you break the into phases. Like first phase you implement only some part of the new system, second phase you implement some other part of the new system, so only new system is brought into picture but in phases. Then pilot change, it is also similar to phase, but what happens is that not everything is removed, only one operation is focused, and depending upon the result the changes are brought into other areas of the organization. Then comes parallel changeover, in which the both system will be functioning, and once the new system is being adopted by the entire people of the organization, the old system is stopped there. Okay, then but what happens when you're trying to go to the new system, there are some conversion activities, like some technical change happening to all the files and database, you need to take care of them. So what are the different conversion activities? Here conversion activities mean the data being transferred from one to another. We follow here procedure conversion, file conversion, system conversion, scheduling personnel equipment. Procedure conversion means the way in which the activities are being done, it is converted. File conversion, the format is changed. System conversion, the way you use the system will be different. And scheduling personnel equipment, the people who are doing the work will also get changed. Then once the implementation is done, we should do a review and maintenance, right? So in review and maintenance, there are the different six types of maintenance regime. What are the six types of maintenance? We have scarf, I think, no, scrap, it is scheduled maintenance. Okay, then we have corrective maintenance. SCR, R is rescue maintenance. Okay, adaptive maintenance, P is perfective preventive maintenance. So how can you remember? If you don't do maintenance for system, it will be scrapped. Scrap means scheduled maintenance, rescue maintenance, adaptive maintenance, sorry, S is scheduled maintenance, corrective maintenance, rescue maintenance, adaptive maintenance, perfective and preventive maintenance. Rescue maintenance means it is done, it is a pre-planned activity to avoid any anticipated risk. The rescue maintenance is done when there is a malfunction which is not anticipated, still some event occurred. Corrective maintenance occurs when you find out a defect and you correct it immediately. Adaptive maintenance is that you try to adapt the software to changing circumstances and business requirements. Then perfective maintenance done, you can say it's a general concern to improve the function enhancement of the software every time, so you try to do something other to increase its productivity. Then preventive maintenance is done to have a system maintainability and to uh, you can say it is a kind of insurance kind of thing, where you try to be very careful, and you try to increase the maintainability of system by updating the document, and then you try to avoid the risk as much as possible. So yeah, you can say, ma'am, what is the difference between scheduled and preventive? Scheduled maintains that we know the risk, so we try to protect the system so that the risk won't occur. But in preventive, we don't know the risk, we try to anticipate it may happen, and we're trying to update our system accordingly. Okay, then uh, yeah, so I think this will be covering. There's a small note here. What is operation manual? This can come as a 1 mark MCQ for you. So operation manual is a technical guide. You just got in the MCQ right now. So it's a technical guide showing what is the entire system, how is it prepared, what components have went into it, what language has been used, what to do if system gets failure, what's the immediate thing to be done, so what is the system capacity, etc. All these things are given in a technical communication language in a document called as operation manual, which will give as assistance to the people using system. It's just like user manual kind of thing. So this is the entire revision for the chapter 5. Let us complete the MCQ. So techniques in dynamic testing, we have black box, white box, and gray box. Perfect. Then we have dash ensures that changes or correction have not introduced new faults. New faults are not introduced, so that's why we do regression testing. Okay, then comes parts of final acceptance testing. In final acceptance, we have both quality assurance and user acceptance testing. Then dash considered the most secure method with both systems running in parallel over the introductory period. Both systems are running equally, so it is parallel changeover. I hope you're finding it easy to do now after you revise it, right? Then dash refers to previously undetected malfunction that were not anticipated but require immediate troubleshooting action. So it was not anticipated before and it came correct suddenly. So which you didn't anticipate, if it came suddenly, you try to rescue system. So it is a rescue maintenance. Then comes user managers and auditors required to participate in the project, which generally provide approvals called dash. So approvals in the technical term are called as sign-offs. So approval is not signature, it is called sign-off in the technical language. Then tight control is maintained over the life of the project through the use of extensive written documentation. So extensive written document is in which model? It is done in waterfall model, right? You hope you people remember it. Then problems are often not discovered until system testing. This is a weakness in system, so you can't find problem in between until system is tested. It's a weakness, main weakness of the waterfall model. Then the iterative process of modification and re-evaluation, iteration came. Okay, continues until the user is satisfied. So iteration generally covers in what you keep on doing and doing and doing until you are satisfied. It comes in the exactly in the prototype model. Then which system development model improves both user participation in system development and communication among the product stakeholders? You're trying to communicate with the people. So when the thing comes for the you can say, ma'am, why can't we agile? Agile model is something where there's a discussion between the team members. Okay, and rapid application development, there's no discussion, just give they give the task and just they do it. So waterfall model is a heavy discussion, that's only with the team they do documentation. But when the thing comes participation in system development and communication among the product stakeholders, means team and outside people who need to use the system, so everything is done in the prototype model. Why we do a prototype? We give it to user, they give the changes to us and we implement the changes there. So prototyping model is the best answer. Okay, then comes dash model, combines the elements of waterfall with the iterative philosophy. So iterative model is a combination. Do you remember, people? It is the combination of waterfall plus prototype. Then some modules will be completed much earlier than others. Well-defined interface are required. So which model does it happens? In agile, everything at once. Waterfall, one after other. Rad, you can take in rapid application at one shot, it is being developed. Only in the iterative model, each model is prepared separately and then they're combined. Therefore some models will be completed earlier, some takes time, therefore a good interface is required. Then dash tries to combine advantages of top down and bottom concepts, so which will cover top down and bottom. Come on, you can guess it. Yes, the spiral model. Spiral model is a complex model which covers the top down and bottom concepts in getting the system development. Okay, you can once revise the thing by seeing the spiral model concept again. Okay, the dash is intended for large, expansive, complicated projects. Whenever complication comes, spiral model exists there. Okay. Then dash system development model may prove highly customized to each project and is quite complex and limits reusability. So complexity, limits reusability, highly customized, all these words are the favorite of spiral model. Okay. Then, DAS system development model attempts to reduce inherent project risk by breaking the project into smaller segments and providing more ease of change during the development process. So, you're breaking into smaller segments, by smaller segments and ease of change. So, what is saying? It reduces inherent project risk by breaking the project into small segments and providing more ease of change during the development process. See, when ease of change will happen in the rapid application development. Why we are not taking agile model we just discuss with the teams and we get the things done. Spiral model, it's very complex, but here what he's saying the most proper answer will be rad and iterative. Why not iterative? In iterative model you do a one system, we follow prototype and waterfall, then you and individually you prepare one more unit with using waterfall prototype, and you combine these two units there. Okay, and when you're combining, if anything development need, you can't do the development, must be an individual for each unit. You're getting the point. But in rapid application development, you whenever any change is needed, you can do immediately in that model without any need to think further. Okay, then DAS system development model provides for the ability to rapidly change system design as demanded by the user. Rapidly changing is done by the rapid application development model. Then Dash may call for the violation of programming standards related to inconsistent violation of programming standards and inconsistent naming convention. It an inconsistent document whenever you are not following particular standards, you are following one particular method for one system development and something for something else. You are not properly maintaining document. All these things are negativity of rapid application development because we are so busy in creating the model that we don't follow any documentation process. Then, in Dash system development model, there is sustainable development able to maintain constant pace. So, you are having your doing system very and methodologically. So, this you can say sustainable development means you are coordinating with the team, you are knowing what to do, you are having a good pace system, you are not rushing, and you are not doing slow. So, this kind of thing is the one of the main feature, or you can say benefit of agile model. Then comes in this system development model, there is a face-to-face communication and continuous input from customer representative, leaving little less space for guesswork. So here the customer they hear what happens in agile model. So in rapid application development, you just get the input, you do it. Waterfall model, you discuss with team a lot and do it. In spiral model, it's very big to do. But in agile model, you try to talk to customer representative once face to face. You know what is requirements, then talk in depth with the team to know what is the best thing to do for the client. Then Dash is normally initiated by some sort of system request. Preliminary investigation is not done on request, it is done before the system development. System testing is not done on request, it is on a regular basis. Design also development based upon the investigation. So only you can system development. System development is normally initiated by some sort of system request. So also what happens? Why not system testing? System testing is regularly based upon a schedule or based upon the need of the organization. But development will come only when some request has come. Suppose a request come from the from a particular department saying that we are unable to process this sort of invoices, so a code is being developed or modified so that the system can catch up those purchase entries and make a data out of it. So development comes only when there is a form of request. Okay, then does the necessary technology exist to do what is suggested? Does the proposed equipment have technical capacity to hold data required to use the new system? Can the proposed application be implemented with existing technology? So you're trying to talk about something like what are the feasibility. If you can see carefully, we're talking about the existing technology, equipment capacity, and proposed application with the existing technology. So all this feasibility belongs to the technical feasibility. Okay, then comes Dash is the feasibility dimension includes an evaluation of all the incremental cost and benefits expected to propose system. Incremental cost and benefit. So directly because it came cost and benefit, don't go to financial. Financial feasibility deals with the financial cost involved in making system. But after you have a finance, what is the cost and benefit you're getting? So it is the economic feasibility dimension that we need to take care of. Okay, in the key control queries regarding various aspects of the stage of internal control may not include which of the following. In key control queries regarding internal control which may not include what? Whether problem definition is proper, whether all feasibility studies have been properly done, whether results of non-feasibility studies have been documented, whether management report submitted reflects the outcome of feasibility studies done. So the question is, in the internal control stage, which of the following does not include? When you are trying to do the internal control verification or checking something, we see if there is a proper definition of the problem, because internal control something which deals with the internal thing. If we don't define what is the problem faced by the organization, we can't have any controls in place. So that is included. Whether all feasibility studies have been done properly, yes, we see if a system implementation, if we have all studies ready. Whether the results of any non-feasibility studies have been documented, like suppose you came to know that this thing is not going to happen because of the system, so did you document that thing there, like this service we can't provide? So these three will be available in the internal control, but management report submitted reflects the outcome of feasibility. So management report is given to stakeholders, not to the internal people there, so this one will not be included as a part of the internal control. Okay, just a minute. Oh, no. Oh. Okay, sorry, this one will be the answer, not D, it is C. Because why, I'm just sorry if not it is C. The reason is that in the internal control thing, we'll have proper definition, we have the feasibility studies, and the internal control, even the management can also show the feasibility studies done to the internal control people. Okay, but non-feasibility study will not come in internal control. See, internal control, we just see if the proper things happen properly or not. If something is not working well, if the system is not fitting into that thing, it forms a part of the feasibility report, but not the internal control report there. So the key control query regarding various aspects of the stage of internal control does not include the results of non-feasibility study that have been documented. Okay, so non-feasibility will come under the feasibility report, but not under the internal control. Then, through a dash, a large document of data can be collected through a variety of users quickly for determining these needs and requirements. So, large number of people can be covered only with questionnaires. In documents, no, people don't like to answer that much. Interviews, you can't ask anybody. Observation, your judgment can be influenced. But in questionnaires, is yes or no thing, so many people can answer, and it can cater to large amount of people. Then, the dash gives analysts an opportunity to observe and record first-hand user interaction to probe into further information. First-hand information you get in interviews only. In interviews, you get the first-hand information while discussing with the people. Then you can go in depth into what they have told. So this is the entire chapter number 5, my friends. Tomorrow we'll be starting chapter number 6. So yeah, the description of the books, sorry, the link for the books is given in the description box. You can check it out and prepare well and stay motivated. Okay, so see then, let's meet in the next chapter, chapter number 6, then in the next video. Till then, happy studies, take care.